What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of The 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. A highly anticipated game, guys, that's going to be coming out at some point in the foreseeable future is Starfield. This is a game, guys, that of course is going to be coming to us from Bethesda, and apparently it's supposed to come out before Elder Scrolls 6, which is also very highly anticipated. And so I wanted to take this moment in this first segment of the show today and talk about everything we know so far about Starfield. So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Tom Sr. of PC Gamer, Starfield is Bethesda's first original RPG in 25 years, and it's set in space. That is, almost everything we know about this mysterious project with the studio has been talking about internally for a decade. There are a few minor details to be gleaned from comments Bethesda has made. Other than that, the latest we've heard on Starfield is Todd Howard telling everyone to be patient. So, when is Starfield's release date? The release date hasn't been announced yet and don't expect it anytime soon. Bethesda released Fallout 76 in late 2018, and Todd Howard hinted to GameSpot that the game might not ship on this generation of consoles. So basically, guys, I think what we can take from what Todd Howard is stating is that this is a game that has been very anticipated for a number of years now, and it's probably been in development for a while as well. Kind of gives me the question mark that has Starfield seen a lot of delays due to development hell, or has it just had issues like creative differences? Has there just been, there could be so many different things that have been holding Starfield back from getting a release sooner. And so I think part of what we could look at is that the recent, with Fallout 76, when that came out, it got a ton of backlash. Maybe Todd Howard and Bethesda are thinking, look, let's take our time with Starfield. Even though we have already been taking our time, let's even take our time even more so now because of the backlash we got from Fallout 76. So look, guys, here's what I would personally think is that since this is a game that's going to be coming out before Elder Scrolls 6, we're probably looking at, we're going to hear more either later this year or, next year, which would be, of course, 2021. And the game will probably come out in 2022. I feel that they're working on Elder Scrolls 6 as well. So both of these games, they want to bring them out, guys. I mean, obviously, these are going to be two real heavy hitters for them, especially Elder Scrolls 6. But before E3 of 2019, Todd Howard cautioned during an interview with IGN that although Starfield is Bethesda's priority rather than Elder Scrolls 6, which we are also eagerly awaiting, fans will need to be patient. So I'm saying, guys, like I said, probably a couple more years until we get our hands on this game. Now, is there an official Starfield trailer? Bethesda's E3 2018 teaser trailer is all we have seen of the game so far. It shows the sun cresting the atmosphere of a desert planet, and it shows a space station. The rugged design and solar panels imply a realistic sci-fi tone more akin to Gravity than Mass Effect, which I'm really excited about, guys. I mean, even though it kind of was one of those trailers similar, a teaser trailer similar to Elder Scrolls 6, I'm still pretty excited about it. It gets me excited because it's going to be like, a space type of movie, a game that I think that we're all going to really become accustomed to in a way in which it feels like it's probably going to be pretty open world. And I mean, look, this has a lot of potential. I think that's, at the end of the day, what we can kind of take from this is that this has a lot of potential. I'm excited to see more, of course, as we, get closer to the game launching. And so obviously, guys, E3 2020 got canceled due to the pandemic going on. So obviously Bethesda is not going to be able to talk about Starfield there. Starfield has apparently been in development for years. There isn't a release date yet, but Todd Howard says that the project has moved out of pre-production and is currently in a playable state internally. The teaser shown at E3 2018 was mostly designed to give us a sense of the game's atmosphere. In an interview with The Guardian, Howard says, "We've been talking about it for a decade. We started putting things on paper 5-6 years ago, and active development was from when we finished Fallout 4, so 2.5 to 3 years. So look, when you hear that, guys, they're pretty far in development in this game, obviously. But I do think that there may have been a development hell for Starfield at some point or another. I just think we would have seen more at this point from a game that's been in development for up to like around 3 years. So, in my opinion, I think that we should be hearing more about Starfield, sometime in the very foreseeable future. But it does feel like this is a game that could have went through some development hell and some creative differences and things of that nature. Now, Starfield has Bethesda's DNA, but it'll have a lot of new systems. So, guys, this kind of one thing that this reminds me of is Starfield kind of seems similar to me as like a Fallout game, but more like, set in the future and like on a space station, like different, planets and things of that nature. Maybe kind of like Mass Effect, but kind of Bethesda's Mass Effect, or kind of like a Fallout that's like very open world and such, but just, different like space stations and very sci-fi. Everything we know about Starfield so far is leaking out in bits from interviews with Todd Howard. On Eurogamer, Howard was pressed on whether Starfield will be a Bethesda game, studio game, in the way that Elder Scrolls and Fallout are. I don't want to say yes or no to that because I don't know what that means to you or whoever's going to read that. It's different, but if you sit down and play it, you would recognize it as something we made, if that makes sense. It has our DNA in it. It has things that we like. Howard also added this: but it has a lot of new systems we've been thinking about for a while that fit that kind of game really well. Hey, Bethesda has never made an RPG set in space before, so some differences were bound to be on the cards. So, one thing that was really interesting to me was at an E3 2019 chat between Todd Howard and Elon Musk, Howard divulged that space travel in Starfield probably won't be a utopian Star Trek-like ordinary affair. Traveling in space in our game, I want to say it's like Flight in the 40s, like it's dangerous, said Howard. It's still dangerous to go and explore, even though lots of people do it. And so Todd Howard, he actually traveled to SpaceX to bring authenticity to Starfield, which I think is really awesome as well. So overall, guys, the things that we know, the major things, right, is that Starfield obviously is going to be set in a futuristic sci-fi setting. We're talking, of course, Bethesda, the ones who make Elder Scrolls as well as Fallout, so it's bound to be something interesting. I just hope that, microtransactions and things of that nature aren't something that really ruin this game, like Fallout 76 just had so much backlash, obviously, for a number of reasons. But hopefully Starfield, they kind of, that being Bethesda, hopefully they learned what they did right, wrong, what they can do different moving forward in their, future titles that come out. Starfield is no different to that. But I think, as this sounds very intriguing, very awesome in my opinion, I'm excited to see more Starfield. I think this could be a very special game for Bethesda, and I think it could be, another, major IP for them that like sees multiple continuations over time if it lands correctly and well. So I'm very excited about it, guys. Everything that we pretty much know so far, it's pretty minimal, but they're pretty far into development, it sounds like. And I would say, guys, that we'll probably get our hands on the game in a couple of years. So, look, 2022 is probably when we'll probably get our hands on it. Should hear more this year or next year, 2021, as to, more information. I'll give you guys more information as it comes out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Starfield. What is it that you guys want to see out of this game? And what are you most anticipated about with it? Let me know what you guys think. And for more Starfield content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Dead Space is one of my favorite horror games of all time, guys, and one of my favorite, horror franchises, and just one of my favorite, franchises in gaming in general. I absolutely love Dead Space. Now, I will say this, that in the past, we've talked about Dead Space, guys, on a number of occasions here on the YouTube channel, and I wanted to talk about, Dead Space 4, and something that we've talked about on the YouTube channel, and something that we're highly anticipating, and something that we really want to see come out at some point in the foreseeable future. And I've said this in the past, guys, that the first two Dead Space games were a couple of like the best horror games in any franchise I've ever played. And then you get Dead Space 3, which they kind of went away from the formula, away from what made the game and series so good, which was the horror elements of it. They decided to kind of move in this direction of more of an action type of third-person shooter instead of making it a horror third-person shooter. And so that being said, they kind of went away from what really made it such a great series. And so Dead Space 4, guys, I want to talk about here how this is a game that will be made and how it could be made, what needs to happen in order for Dead Space 4 to become a reality. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that. So I think, guys, that you had three, games in the Dead Space franchise that were, all in all, I mean, the first two, incredible. The third one was okay. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. And the sales for the first two games were really good. The third one, sales were decent, but I don't know if it really justified making another game, at least for EA. Visceral Games gets shut down by EA, and so now we're kind of wondering, we're in this limbo state at this point with this franchise. Is it something that could ever come back? And I'm going to tell you guys, I think it definitely is a game and a series that definitely could come back. Dead Space 4, or if they want to just call it Dead Space as a soft reboot to the franchise, I think that what they need to do is obviously, make it, kind of go back to what really made it so great, those horror elements. I mean, guys, there were books, there were movies that were made about this franchise, and so I think that it definitely deserves to coexist, especially with other horror games out there. How's it going to be made? Well, I'll tell you how. EA either needs to sell the IP to another developer or give the IP to a developer that is, hungry to make something like Dead Space. There's tons of developers out there that would probably love to have Dead Space and continue that franchise, have a lot of ideas as to where they could go. But at the end of the day, guys, it's going to come down to us as a community. Those of us who love Dead Space, it's going to come down to us telling EA that we want another Dead Space game made. And there's been a lot of movements that have been made around Dead Space and games kind of like this. We've talked about, lots of different games on the YouTube channel that we want to see continuations of, and Dead Space is no different to that. But really what it's going to come down to is the fan base coming together and telling EA that we want another Dead Space game. And even at that, it's a stretch, but here's the thing, is that developers are always listening, to what's going on, that outside noise, the things that are happening within certain communities, and you never know. I mean, those movements that are created a lot of times can bring these franchises back to life. And EA, at this point, I would say, Dead Space at this current point in time is in an indefinite hiatus state, guys. It just is. It's in a spot where I would say that they are, as an EA, they're thinking, that Dead Space was a good series, but they want to put a lot of their resources on their other big heavy hitter, IPs, that being Battlefield and Star Wars and, these real heavy hitters that are getting them, millions upon millions of dollars on any given year. And Dead Space, not saying that it doesn't, it didn't sell well or anything, but it's not a Battlefield. It's not going to be, a Star Wars. It is kind of a niche game that I believe should be kind of considered one of those games similar to Resident Evil and some of these other games that have come out in the past. And, I believe that Dead Space deserves to coexist. I mean, Resident Evil continues to have games made, and I think that Dead Space is one that deserves to have it continue as well. Sure, look, there's going to be peaks and valleys with any franchise out there, guys. I don't care if you're talking about the best-selling game every single year, that being Call of Duty, which I love. The Call of Duty series is one of my favorites ever, but there's peaks and valleys. There's good games, there's bad games. And the fact of the matter is that Dead Space, sure, it had a couple amazing games and then one that was not as good, right? But all it takes is one game to hurt a franchise. It takes one game to bring that franchise back up into the incline, into the continuation of that legacy. And so I think Dead Space 4 is certainly something that should happen. Without a doubt, I think there's enough of us that want a Dead Space continuation, the story to continue. I think that there's a lot more Isaac Clarke stories to be told. And even if it's not Isaac Clarke and he passes the torch on to someone else, I think that there's a lot more necromorphs to slay, a lot of new, characters to be introduced. There's a lot of new, just all of it. There's a lot that I think that needs to happen with Dead Space, and I always said this from the beginning. I always thought that Dead Space was a little bit behind when it came to the multiplayer aspects, the co-op aspects, which we didn't get co-op until Dead Space 3, and multiplayer. I mean, multiplayer, it's this is a franchise that could be awesome for multiplayer, having a multiplayer element. So why does it not have any multiplayer? And that's something that they could improve with Dead Space 4 as well. Multiplayer, campaign, and co-op modes could really bring people together. Having, similar to Gears of War with the Horde mode, having something like that with Dead Space would be incredible, where you're going up against waves and waves of necromorphs and, other creatures from the Dead Space universe would be absolutely incredible. And so, guys, there's a multitude of different ways that you could make Dead Space 4 incredible, or just, have a nice soft reboot for the franchise. But it comes down to us. It comes down to us, like, telling EA that we want this franchise to continue, and then them taking that information and either passing that IP to someone else, because obviously someone else is going to do it because Visceral Games got shut down. So it'd be somebody else, but there's a developer out there that would love to take Dead Space and take it into incredible directions, in my personal opinion. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about Dead Space and the future? Could Dead Space 4 be something that is going to come out at some point or another? What do you guys think, and how do you think Dead Space 4 will be made? Let me know in the comment section below, and for more Dead Space 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. One of the most anticipated movies of the year, guys, is Godzilla vs. Kong. This is a movie that, of course, guys, is going to be continuing the legacy that they started with not only Godzilla, but also with the Kong movie that has come out, and now they want to create this monsters universe in a cinematic form, which is incredible, and I'm excited for it, and I want to talk about everything that we know so far about this movie, and we can talk about it. So let's get into it. In an article, guys, that was written by Hector Valverde of CBR.com, ever since Legendary's MonsterVerse launched in 2014 with Godzilla, the entire franchise has been building to one film, Godzilla vs. Kong. That culmination of the MonsterVerse has been long delayed. However, when it arrives, the two title titans will finally get a chance to face off each other in combat. So look, really quick, guys, something that I, wanted to say is that this is something that I think they've been building, this MonsterVerse, and I'm really excited about it. I will say this, though, as far as with Godzilla and Kong, I think there's been, like, some of these movies, which up to this point has been 3, some of them have been hits and misses in my personal opinion. I find them to be, pretty good overall, but honestly, it's hard to say, like, where it's really going. So let's talk about the story so far. A follow-up to last year's King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong is also a sequel to 2014's Godzilla and 2017's Kong Skull Island. All three prior movies have in some way or another centered around Monarch, a cryptic government organization founded to study and manipulate the Earth's ancient titans in order to protect mankind. Now, what I'll say, guys, is King of the Monsters, I thought it was okay, but I didn't like it nearly as much as Godzilla, and Kong Skull Island was okay. Like, they were both okay. Now, as far as King Kong goes, like, Peter Jackson's King Kong, I thought was an incredible addition, or just, solo film that I liked it a lot more than Kong Skull Island, in my personal opinion. And 2014's Godzilla was absolutely incredible. I loved that movie. But King of the Monsters and even Kong Skull Island, I don't know, they just didn't land super well for me. I don't know if it was like the stakes didn't feel that high or it just didn't feel real enough to me. I'd love to hear from you guys, though. Let me know in the comment section below about what you guys thought about Kong Skull Island, Godzilla, and, Godzilla King of the Monsters. After leveling yet another city in King of the Monsters, Godzilla has crowned himself the Titan's Alpha, instituting peace on Earth. The environment is healing after centuries of human endangerment, with Titans returning to the planet's surface to protect the natural world between their biomes. Despite Earth's tranquil state, newspaper headlines during King of the Monsters' credit sequence indicate that Monarch is busier than ever. The organization is exploring the hollows of the Earth in search of more Titans, and an increase in seismic activity and security around Skull Island suggests Monarch is up to something fishy on Kong's home. Kong, meanwhile, has presumably stayed dormant on his island since the 70s, though it appears he's now subsequently larger in size. Kong has been theorized to have been in his infancy or youth during the film, explaining this dramatic growth spurt, which I find is kind of interesting, guys, that they decided to go in this direction of making Kong so massive so he could fight Godzilla. I'll be interested to see what they decide to do with that. Either way, I think it'll be really cool to see these two Titans facing off against one another. It could land like Batman versus Superman, which everyone was so excited to see Batman versus Superman on the screen, and then the fight sequence was like the fight sequences between the two of them were like 5 minutes or something. So I hope that this is something that's really awesome. There's a significant build up, and there's a payoff though as well. As far as the release date is concerned, guys, initially slated for a March release, Godzilla vs. Kong is currently set to premiere on November 20th. No further delays have been announced in the wake of the pandemic. So, of course, guys, lots of movies have been pushed back. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed back again. But I'd like to see, as far as the trailers and things of that nature that have come out for this movie, I'm excited to, I want them to actually not even really bring out many more trailers because I don't want them to ruin, like, the whole movie, which is what so many incredible, movies that are released, they just a lot of times were shown way too much in the trailers. As far as cast and crew is concerned, guys, Your Next and Blair Witch director Adam Wingard will helm the film with a screenplay from Pirates of the Caribbean and Shrek scribe Terry Rossio. Alexander Skarsgård, Brian Tyree Henry, Eliza Gonzalez, Rebecca Hall, and Jessica Henwick have all been cast. However, details about the movie's characters are sparse, though Skarsgård's character, likely the film's human lead, has been described as a geologist with a special connection to Kong. So a pretty nice, stellar list of cast members, guys, and I'm excited about Adam Wingard being the director of this. I actually liked Blair Witch a lot, and I thought Your Next was really good as well. So I'm excited about that. It should be really, it should be interesting to see someone who's not as like a massive like director be able to helm a huge, blockbuster film like this. Kyle Chandler and Millie Bobby Brown reprised their roles as father and daughter scientists Mark and Madison Russell from King of the Monsters. Zhang Ziyi will also return as Dr. Eileen Shen, a third-generation Titan mythologist and a spiritual successor to Toho's classic Shobin characters from the Mothra series. Now, this is interesting as far as the rumored monsters are concerned. Alongside Godzilla and Kong, the credit sequence, The King of the Monsters, sets up returns for other monsters down the road. Notable newspaper headlines in the credits include Monarch finds massive egg, rodent nesting in volcanic north of Fiji, and Monarch confirms ancient Greek origin of squid-like titan known as Scylla. The egg mentioned foreshadows another Mothra spawning after its parent sacrifice helping Godzilla defeat King Ghidorah in King of the Monsters. Rodin, the new legendary created Scylla, amongst other kaiju, may also return from King of the Monsters to protect the reptilian ruler in his battle with Kong. So that's pretty exciting, guys. I gotta say, people were really breaking down everything from the credits of King of the Monsters, which I think is awesome. And I think that more monsters doesn't always mean that it means it's better, right? I've always kind of said that. Bigger doesn't always mean better when it comes to movies like this. And I felt that King of the Monsters was trying to be too big. I thought, Kong, Skull Island was trying to be too big for some, just for one reason or another. And I thought that Godzilla was perfect. I thought it was just absolutely perfectly executed on multiple fronts. And I hope that they kind of get back to that in this Godzilla versus Kong movie. Because I think that when you have too many different other monsters involved, a lot of that attention goes away from Godzilla and Kong, which is what the movies should be centered around. So I'm hoping that they don't kind of lose their way there, and then there's just a sequence between Kong and Godzilla at the very end of the movie, and it ends up being 5 minutes, like I said, similar to Batman versus Superman. So look, guys, there are a lot of things that we're certainly excited about with this movie. One big headline in the credits also mentions Monarch is creating a mechanized giant on Skull Island after several disastrous attempts to create organic titans in the past. All hints seem to indicate the arrival of Mecha Godzilla on the horizon, which a recent toy leak seems to indicate may indeed be the case. However, toys are not always indicative of what appears in the final product. Nonetheless, guys, look, I'm very excited about this. And look, this is just like going to be one of those like blockbuster films. I think the Monsterverse, I think, is going to be something that is really more than anything, maybe not taking it like super seriously, but just something that's like a spectacle that you want to watch in the theaters is definitely what I think of when I think of, Godzilla versus Kong. I mean, we've never seen this in a cinematic format, and I think that people are like really excited about this, and I am as well, very excited. I just hope that it really has a real payoff. It's not just a lot of build up and then there's not really a great fight sequence between Godzilla and Kong. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What are you most excited about with Godzilla versus Kong? Who wins the fight, guys? Let me know what you guys think. And for more Godzilla versus Kong content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.